Hello.
Do they want to get a little money? How much we're gonna pay glasses? That's gonna make it really.
Jeremiah, can you hear us? Do a quick sound check.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. We're gonna go on.
Sorry, I'm not
mute.
down there today. I just got out
No,
of another class.
yeah, no worries. We'll go on mute while people kind of filter in here. We'll probably start, 5 after or so.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Yep.
Is this something fun?
Hey, babe. Yeah, that's mine. Yeah, that's
Oh, it
my,
is?
that's my marker from my book.
Okay, what was on the floor, babe?
Good morning, everyone. We're just waiting a few minutes here while everyone kind of filters in and grabs their seats. So we'll get started here in just a couple minutes.
Sounds good. Good morning.
Okay, thanks for coming, Ethan.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is the April 10th, 2025 Project Enhancement Committee. We'll go ahead and get the meeting started here. I see that we have a number of folks online and in the room here, and we've got quorum. So actually, I probably need a packet too.
Make this noise real quick.
Okay, make all your noise while I'm grabbing a packet.
Thank you, bagels. Sit there. $4. I think I've had it already before.
Yeah. Just close it a bit. Yeah, in case there's any. I just noticed that. All right, so let's do the Jackson Fox is out today. He's hunting animals up north, and Olivia is in Anchorage for an event. So I'm the de facto chair today. So
The guy we get
good luck to us all.
here.
Deb's here also. We've got backup. Got backup.
Come sit up here, I guess, if all these people are online.
Yeah, if you guys want to join, that'll help if you're speaking. So we are a pretty relaxed group. We don't generally do super intense Robert's rules in this. It's a pretty open conversation. But let's go around real quick and do introduction to members and attendees, as we've got a couple new folks in the room. So Phoebe, if you want to go ahead and start.
I'm Phoebe Quigley. I'm with Kinney Engineering, and I think I'm representing a girl at this. meeting.
We're all at large, so yeah.
Sue Sprinkle, again, I'm not serving as a city person here, but I am on city council and I'm sitting here as a appointed person for Fast Plan. Yeah.
I'm David Hayden, architect. I'm
Hey.
appointed.
I think we're okay. Corey Giordaliano, fast planning here.
Sylvester, Parks Project Coordinator with the Person Recreation Department for the Fair.
John Haas, Parks and Rec with the World.
Got Deb Todd, who's here taking notes for us. Your name, sir?
David Lean, I'm with Yak Road Service Area.
Okay.
Great. Why don't you join us up here? Good table.
Thank you.
Okay.
And now let's go online. Ethan, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Ethan Grates, DOT project manager, and I'll be presenting later or answering questions on the Chena Pump, Chena Small Tracks roundabout.
All right. Bethany?
Bethany Spence. I'm a committee member for North Pole City.
Jeremiah?
Yeah, Jeremiah Cotter. I'm with the city of Fairbanks. I'm the public works director.
And Tim?
Tim Zenza, City of Fairbanks. I'm in the engineering department.
Okay, great. Let's see, moving on to agenda item number 3. Just for folks online, can I make sure that you can see our shared screen here with the agenda on it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay,
Yes.
I can
terrific.
see it.
All right, great. So can I get a motion on the approval of the April 10th agenda as presented today?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Sue, seconded by Dave. Any discussion or reorganization of items on here? Anything that? Okay, if there's no dissenting, we'll move to approve the agenda. Moving on to agenda item number 4, approval of the January 9th meeting minutes. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Again, move to approve.
Second.
So easy. All right, any discussion on them? Pretty straightforward, no action items. Okay, again, if there's no debate on that, we'll just consider those approved. So now to the committee and working group reports. Jackson's not here to provide kind of a high level thing. I know that with everything that's happening at the federal level, it's impacting basically what our organization is going to be doing over the next couple of years between tariffs and funding. Jackson's kind of keeping an eye on that so we can present something more succinct at the next meeting. But as of now, we're proceeding as planned with a lot of our policies and projects until we get a clear directive that says to not do that. So if you want a more thorough report on that, you can attend a technical committee meeting or the policy board meetings where Jackson gives a pretty good outlay of all that at each meeting. So the only other thing I wanted to mention to this group is that the Welcome to Fairbanks signage and the Fairbanks specific project identification, that stuff is basically just moving for funding. And Jackson is going to try to get someone to put that in our funding plan, the Welcome to Fairbanks signs. So that is moving along out of this committee. And I think that's all I've got for now. So
Wait, can I ask a question?
yes.
So when you say moving for funding, meaning needs to fund the project,
Right.
but weren't we gonna do a little test piece?
Yeah. Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. No, we were going to do a mock-up of it. But when I say move into funding, he's going to try to get someone to nominate it to just put it in our tip, or we'll self-nominate it into our tip program.
And still go ahead with a little test.
Yeah, yeah. If we want to
I'm
add
just curious,
making a mock-up. Yep.
before we get all crazy with it.
Yep. So when we get down to PEC connections to local organizations and we talk about the high school fabrication partnership, we're working with welding shop instructors. So there may be some fun overlap there between doing mock-ups for this group and what they have the capacity for. Yes, John.
I'm not very familiar with what you guys are allowed to do, but can you guys do sponsorships for projects like your Welcome to Fairbanks sign?
Yeah, we can fund them out of some of our.
Can you accept sponsorship from a business organization or another entity?
By sponsorship, you mean like a financial
Yeah.
donation or?
Yes, we have a sponsorship program at the borough. We just received $60,000 to Kiwanis to help with Veterans Park.
Ooh.
So we reached out to several of our businesses down, some who are willing to participate in
Yeah.
our projects for, some kind of recognition for what they've done. I just did it. That sign in particular sounds like one that might lend itself to
Like a
a
part
lot
of
of business saying, yeah, we would like our name to be attached to the sign.
Yeah.
We have a contract that we do, so we tell them what they get in response for what they do. Kiwanis will get a stamped piece of concrete 4 feet wide with their logo on it.
Sure.
There, and recognition for the foreseeable future that they donated the money for the thing that they're donating.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you guys did that for those, but that sign in particular sounds like one where someone might be willing to.
Yeah, throw in with it. Certainly. I think,
Just didn't know if you guys. did
aggregating
that.
funding would be a great idea. I'll mention that to Jackson and see what he thinks about how it could fit
Do our
together.
sponsorship program if you want.
Perfect. Okay, great. So we do, Fast Planning has projects that go in its tip, but then we also have funding that's, it's called undesignated funds that is a lot more flexible for us to apply. It basically just requires board approval here in our office. So a lot of the projects that we're going to talk about today are being funded or supported with those undesignated funds. So it's basically the like quote unquote profit that comes out of what we bill against our planning funds grant. We use that money for things like the mosaic that's over at Grail Park and other kind of small efforts like that. So yeah. Great, good questions. Let's go to public comment now, which we kind of already started, but are there any members of the public that want to make comments about things that are not included in the packet today? We've just got 4 members of the public here, so. All right, seeing none, let's move on to old business. So we wanted to start this off with an update on the status of the Chena Pump Small Tracks Roundabout. And Ethan, I can go ahead and give you permission on the screen, or how do you want to coordinate this?
Yeah, I can share the PSNE review plan set that we have, or
Okay.
at least a version of it. We're still kind of in iterations of this thing, unless Phoebe had something there, because we both had talked about potentially bringing something.
I have all the confidence in the world with what you have there, Ethan.
All right, so I'm gonna
That's what
share
we're
some
talking
boring
about.
plan sheets then.
No worries, please do. You should have sharing permissions, but let me know if you don't.
Okay, I can't quite tell. Do you have something on the screen there from, was that something that?
That's just a
previous meeting,
placeholder.
or-
Oops.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh God. It's
No,
Acrobat.
you're good.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here.
So these are some of the materials the PEC saw previously, the kind of, general plan and traffic flow, placement of lights in that upper image, and then in the lower image, an elevation view, so showing some of the features that are going to go into this roundabout. So there were some, stone elements, some metal, and then some sort of silhouette cutouts of an infestation of fox.
That by
So-
and large is not changing. I'm unable to share my screen.
All right, let me see here what I can do.
Participant screen sharing needs to be enabled.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so how about now?
There we go. Thank you. So
Mhm.
let's do that one and share. Let me know when you can kind of see something come up.
Yep. Yeah, we've got it.
All right. So this is just a plan view of the proposed landscaping. My indication was you guys are still interested in mostly just the landscaping aspect of this, so I'm gonna kind of concentrate on just those things. So there's gonna be asphalt pavement around the center here, and then as you step further in, it'll be the stamped concrete pattern. And then as you get a little farther in, it's going to be, well, here, we'll go to this one. So a little blow up here. We've got some stamped concrete. We've got some cobbles that'll be around the outside. I think we're removing the cobbles though. We were trying to minimize any like smaller stuff from getting kicked out if somebody happens to be out there, or if maintenance and operations and their winter grading and brooming in the springtime time of year. We're trying to minimize any rocks getting kicked out into the lanes. So we're going to stick to mostly kind of riprap sized stuff around the center of the island there. We still have our big kind of concrete walls that perform a nice little zigzag. And once again, to remind everybody the purpose of those things and why we even want stuff in the middle of these roundabouts is to get everybody to look to their left and not necessarily directly straight over looking at oncoming traffic. So a lot of this is like a visual to obscure your vision straight across the roundabout to get you to look to your left to find your appropriate gap acceptance there. So with that, we're trying to provide some niceties with this and not just make it boring rock, but not something that is too compelling that something will just stare into the middle and not drive, right? So with this, there is some planting. You can kind of see the planting schedule here. We scaled this back a bit because part of this that we have to balance is while there's lots of nice things that we could put out in the middle of these things, we have to have a budget and the ability to maintain these things, and maintenance and operations does not have, they do not get a commensurate increase in budget every time we're like, let's put a roundabout or something nice out there, which is why you end up with like those, like if you picture in your mind's eye over in Gars, the kind of fake, I should say artificial birch trees. They're very nice looking, but they're white and black, and something like that requires very little maintenance. So we're scaling back this a little bit. There will still be planting out there. There'll still be some birch, some pine, and some low shrubbery options here to kind of fill in the empty visuals. This is just a little snapshot of the grading to kind of show, this is going up, this is going up. We will have flow channeled to the outside here with appropriate drainage then that will then kick it outside the roundabout. And this is more of a landscape elevation of what you can see and where we anticipate placing some of these animal cutouts still. And our last conversation between myself and the design team is those animal cutouts. We're looking at more of like a stainless steel, more reflective look on the animal Phoebe, correct me if I'm mistaken on that, but and then to angle them in a way that they're not providing glare back to the driver. But we want these to be obvious and not necessarily startle somebody and go, oh, there's an animal in the middle of the roundabout. So, I mean, there is, but it's a metal one. So I don't
Ethan,
know.
can I ask?
Yeah, questions.
Sorry, the what we talked about in this group before with the animals was going with more of like a Corten steel or something that could weather. What prompted the decision to go to a stainless material that's more reflective?
Yeah, we got other feedback that was saying like maybe we would lose the contrast against what was behind them. So we wanted them to pop a little bit more and not get lost in the surrounding environment.
Is the concrete colored or is it just going to be the sort of natural gray hue?
I don't remember seeing that. Phoebe, do you know?
I thought that concrete had like was spaced with the Corten steel or Corten steel.
Oh, Corten. Yeah.
And I think regarding the stainless steel boxes. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up but I thought that was another thing that Design Alaska was looking into was not, I didn't think he was changing it to stainless steel. I thought he was gonna look at some kind of coating that could be applied to the Corten steel.
Yes.
to provide
Yeah,
some
that
kind
maybe
of
that was it.
protection.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I guess what I don't know, are you saying that the zigzag pieces are those Corten steel, that's concrete, that is gray?
It is
This
concrete, but I think it might be faced with
Because if it's gray with steel boxes, that doesn't sound like a big contrast either.
right. You know, I think
Why does there need to be contrast?
Why would you have a box you could see?
I think you'd still see it.
Well, that's what we're asking.
There's a detail for that cross section on that steel. That means
We're just trying to figure out.
Yeah, I'm not seeing
Oh,
the detail on the.
I mean, what if they were black boxes? Just black. It's crazy. Is that dumb? Is it wild? Is it perfect?
I think Corten would be fine.
I do too, but
I think it's complicated enough.
Ethan, has anybody done any 3D stuff of this kind of with materials? I thought Design Alaska had mocked up a kind of generic Photoshop version of, what these materials were going to be.
They had an early one, but there hasn't been like an updated one. So
Okay.
yeah.
it's not changed since it was presented.
We had it in a previous packet. I can go find it.
Well, it's less box. Or is it boxes?
boxes.
Yeah. Fewer foxes.
I think it got scaled back from like 12 to 8. I think that's what there were before.
I think that's why.
So who doesn't know?
We do.
Oh, okay.
So concrete panel clad in 22 gauge weathered steel. So there is a steel component around the retaining wall sections.
So that. Is that just to give it color? Or is there a strength issue on that?
No, it's just purely
It's aesthetics, structurally, without a steel section encasing this concrete for the loads, you could get away with just a concrete wall and footer. Probably don't even need a real big footer at that point.
It'd be awesome. It's gonna be so much better than anything else we have.
This will be far and large, but by and large, the most landscaped roundabout that we have in the interior, I think. So
So-
trying a little different direction with this one.
Yeah, I think compared to the one on the,
And
what is the one on the,
Chino Hot Springs.
Chino Hot Springs? I hate those.
I mean, it is fun to see people driving trucks try and drive over them in the middle of winter and get high centered, though. That's fun.
Yeah.
That is true.
It's true. It's, I think you could rent it out to like Jeans Chrysler. So they put trucks up.
Maybe Chino wants to sponsor it.
or Jeep or something, yeah. So here I found the for folks online, hopefully you can see. I found a previous packet. This is from about this time last year, showing those cutouts. There were some light elements. I didn't hear you mention those. Were those eliminated, or are there
We're
still
taking-
lights in this?
No, we're taking out the lights. We got feedback from our M&O, at least the spotlights. There's still going to be intersection lighting around this thing that will provide a lot of illumination. But the spotlights from the ground up, those are no longer included.
Got it. Is there, this is kind of tangential, but the, you guys did some lensing on the crosswalk that is on airport. As you approach the airport, it kind of highlights, a specific area of the road where the crosswalk is. Is there a way to do specific lighting that, sort of like feature lighting on this using those existing masts, or is that just additional complexity?
Is that downlighting so it's not interfering with light? Is that why they did it?
I'm not sure. I think it was to focus on the crosswalk there so that you didn't just have this big field of light. It was to highlight that space specifically.
Especially because you're coming.
You talking about the ped path that kind of connects there, but from the airport to, what is it, Dale? You talking about that?
Yeah. There's lighting that is basically targeted or has blinders on it or is lens, so it's highlighting it, specific area of the road. I guess I'm just wondering if there's a way to almost double dip and you do your mast lighting, but you also, are able to throw feature lighting on this middle element.
That would be more difficult with the street lighting setup that we have right now. Right now, it provides the IES RP8 requirements that we need for drivers. It also provides the appropriate light levels for PEDs, but it is not going to highlight necessarily particular features in the roundabout.
Okay.
If I'm a bike, am I getting around this okay? Just curious.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Much
way better.
Candidate. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Just checking.
When does this get built?
This,
It will start late this summer. So the way that this is going to land is it'll be a 2-year project. There will probably be minimal work this summer. And the kind of change in plan with that is because there was another project, the paving project, to repave all of Chena Pump and Chena Ridge. And so they're starting kind of phase 1 of that this summer with repaving between the overpass, the interchange there at Mitchell and Geist, and then ending like a couple 100 feet from this project. So we're trying to limit impacts with all that stuff. And so the main portion of this project, like they might do a little clearing, little demo work. They might temp out some lights, but the majority of the dirt work and paving and landscaping will probably be summer 26 at this rate. But we'll have a contractor on board by July. And then at that point, we'll have some discussions for timeline and schedule with construction folks and the contractor to define the best fit for this project for the remainder of the construction season.
On the curb from the road to the platform or roundabout? What is that? Is that what it looks like? What you have?
So I cannot see your shared, if you like, whatever yours being presented right now.
Oh,
So I don't know what area you're talking about.
The curb.
can you see it? Maybe stop unsharing or stop sharing your screen. That might be an issue. Uh,
I don't think I'm sharing anymore.
Jeremiah, you've got your hand up and maybe you can tell us if you can see the shared screen.
Yeah, I can see yours, Corey, and then now that Ethan shut his off, his isn't behind yours. They were yours was overlapping his, as far as
Okay.
I could see. And my question is like right there where you just got your hand, yeah, that. I know that if you don't have something literally almost right out to the edge, somebody is going to cut right through that and scatter those rocks everywhere. Is that addressed in the design?
The smaller cobble it's like an embedded in concrete. What you're not seeing here is there is a truck apron that is between this inner landscape circle and the edge of pavement.
Okay.
So similar to the roundabout at Danby Wembley where you have that red dyed concrete. It's a truck apron, so vehicles will hit that apron before they would get into that inner circle.
If you want to bring your screen up again, Ethan, your drawings had the more accurate condition for that apron. But yeah, I mean, the packet I'm showing or just showed with that note, that was, I think we addressed that with the concern for this getting scattered around and becoming a, hazard for bikes and motorcycles.
Yeah, so hopefully it's done loading. So I'm sharing my screen again. Let me know if you can't see it.
You look great though.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing it yet.
Oh,
there we go.
there.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so these lines right here, this is inside curb. So there's a little bit of a valley gutter, and then there's what we call a mountable curb. So as Phoebe was describing, Danby Wembley area there's a 6-inch rise roughly through here that a vehicle would navigate, but that is transversable for a larger truck. So any cobbles that would be present are like way up here. So they'd have to even transverse the additional lane. I mean, they'd have to cut that really hard. And then there's actually let's go back here. I believe there was a little bit of a retaining wall, like 6 inches, encompassing the outside of this thing. But the main design feature that's been removed is a lot of the little cobbles, and like this riprap size stuff is what's going to be left over. So you'd have to be committed to damaging your vehicle to want to get up in there and kick rocks out at this point. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, I'm seeing how you got some rocks near the edge, kind of near, what would be as I'm looking at it, the right side of the roundabout, how it like looks like that one big rock is like literally directly behind you. What you're saying is a 6-inch wall. Cause I mean, I don't know, we've seen some amazing things with our roundabouts and what people are willing to try to do to cut 6 inches out of that roundabout.
Yep. So like one of the things that they model on this is fastest path, right? So our Kenny and folks model how fast we think a car could take if they flatten this out as much as possible. So we're taking steps to that. These are positioned such that they're going to discourage people from wanting to cut into the roundabout. And if they do, they're going to be damaging it. Like that's like a totally separate thing, I think. Like we can't necessarily plan around like the freak accident if somebody drives directly into this thing.
Good.
But the majority of folks are gonna see all of our design features, our geometric changes, our chicanes coming in. They're gonna check their speed and they're gonna maneuver safely.
What's a chicane?
Sorry, so fancy term for S-curve.
Oh, okay.
So these like splitter islands,
Yeah.
They divert you a little to the left and then back to the right to try and check your speed before you enter the roundabout.
It seems like a problem with those roundabouts is people do try to cut them.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like maybe, I don't know, but the chevrons that you have shown there, they should be more more of a pronounced. Maybe a recess or something, so when someone goes over them.
It's like a
Shake it.
monster
shake 'em
rumble
a lot,
strip.
because it's just, I'm just shocked how many people try to.
So
that's
this
a-
is the American
that.
version. The European Union, I'll acknowledge the European Union does some pretty interesting stuff out in the middle of these things, and they'll put things that you would not really want to drive over. So
Yeah.
it's not, yeah, no, it's not the barbed wire aspect, but it's more like think like pyramids, but kind of cobble sized, up to 6 inches tall, but with like a flat top. So
Why
they're
don't we do that?
I just think snow removal would be hard with that.
snow
Oh, it's
removal
just a
would
snow
not
fence.
be fun. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I said, this is like American philosophy versus European philosophy at this point, and there are different weathering conditions for these things. So yeah, so we're trying to do this through stamped concrete that creates a little bit of a different driving feel over this. There's paint. There is
Is
a
that just
grade
a
change.
Is that just a simple like 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch control joint then? Those chevrons?
The chevrons are like a foot wide. These are not
Yeah, but
small.
are those joints made by joints in the concrete or?
A stamped.
But
Yeah,
those stamps go down a 1/2 inch or so, right?
so these would be, I believe these are methyl methacrylate, so it'll end up being flush with the surface.
So it'll be slippery.
So it'd be, well, that's not necessarily slippery, because you put like this grit stuff on the top of it. And so like some of our crosswalks end up getting slicked up after a while, after our M&O operations grind them out for a couple years. So they'll anticipated to last a while. Like the middle of these roundabouts don't see near the traffic as like you would a crosswalk at a stoplight that is the same paint and material. So these would last longer. So they sprinkle like sand
Great.
or grit in them essentially to provide some frictional surface to them when they're poured.
I think someone had their hand up, and then we should probably move on to the next item if there's no other questions. Dan, did you have a question or comment?
I didn't have a question. I think it was covered. Basically, yeah, we don't want bumps out there. We'd plow them off and we'd have no bumps after the first winter. So yeah, that's kind of like you see if you drive anywhere in the lower 48, a lot of times they'll have like center line markings that are little bumps. Same reason you don't see those up here. Snow removal is a primary concern for a lot of this stuff. So.
Is there a reason that you guys don't just plow the snow into the roundabout and kind of store it there and like augment the deflection area of the roundabout?
Yeah, so we probably would do that in a big storm. Like you'll see a lot of times we'll plow snow kind of just off the road during a storm. But ultimately we need to remove it anyway. You know, I haven't seen the design drawings, but I'm sure, and Ethan will confirm that the roundabout's the high point here and it's going to drain to the outside. And so this time of year is a concern for us. You know, we don't want, as the sun warms, we get a little melting. We don't want a giant pile of snow there, or we're going to have persistent freezing water on the roundabout, which is a safety concern as well. So we generally try to remove the snow, you know, as time allows, to prevent that. So.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Well, Ethan, if you have nothing else, thanks for the presentation today, and we'll move on to the next item.
Sounds good. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, certainly. You're welcome to stay on or yeah, split off here. All right. So moving on to the next item. This is old business B, and we're going to start by talking about the PEC connections to local organizations. At a previous meeting, we discussed working with groups like the City of Fairbanks, building up partnerships with the Downtown Association, et cetera, Explore Fairbanks. We're working with the Parking Authority, and we'll talk about one of their projects here further down the line. But I invited Trish Levasseur and John Haas to join us today from Parks and Rec to talk about a couple of their programs that are in the capital improvement project lineup right now that I think the PEC members might be interested in, and that there may be some like ask for assistance, or we talked about this organization as being both, maybe offering design assistance, but also peer review on projects. So with that, I will turn it over to John. And John, if you want to let me know which projects to pull up.
Yeah, bring up Fifth Avenue in North Pole.
Okay.
So I've worked for the borough for 25 years, so many of these projects, they languish, and then they get new energy when we get a different mayor, or we get a new relationship with the city, or we get a new relationship with North Pole, or somebody from DOT calls and says, hey, we'll fix this for you while we're fixing a park. So our projects are very collaborative, and I think many people in the public are unaware that I wouldn't say a majority of our funding comes from federal highways, but I would say a lot of our federal funding, a lot of our funding for parks improvement comes from federal highways. Most local designers are not that familiar with how many programs we apply to, because FAST is our really strong partner. AKDOT is an amazingly strong partner for us. So is Western Federal Lands down in the Pacific Northwest, because they have programs that parks can apply to. Also, the Defense Department has programs that we apply to regularly. So that surround soldiers and troops being able to access recreation and community things. So we have literally 20 or 30 funding sources that we regularly work with. But our best partnership in town is certainly FAST and DOT. They always help us out. So a really great project to look at recently that finished where you're like, wow, that was a great project, was Park Grail Landing. A lot of federal highway money in that, a lot of FAST money in that, a lot of DOT saying, hey, what can we do for you while we're fixing the bridge? I mean, it's an amazing project. And then the borough putting in about $1 million to finish out the playground and all that stuff. Rasmussen gave us money for that project. So that's generally how we build a project. But in the beginning, when we start with like Fifth Avenue and North Pole, I've been putting this project forward for 25 years. It's a mess. It's been a mess the whole time. I feel like it's the central park for North Pole, or it should be. We have a really good partner there in the city of North Pole. I was very familiar with previous administrations. The administration now I'm not as familiar with, but Mayor Ward, Mayor Jacobson, over the years, very supportive of this. I tried to get Mayor Ward to bring this up higher on our CIP the last couple times we did it. This mayor, Mayor Grier, he pulled this project from lower down on the list, and he brought the design up for being funding July of 25. So our Public Works Department will begin design of the project probably next winter. But the reason this project is so significant with transportation is we don't have an accessible and safe way for the neighborhoods that surround it to access the park for a good chunk of the year because of drainage, because of the way the sidewalk works with the parking, and then getting into the park isn't actually accessible. To get to the playgrounds, you can't get to the playground with a walker or a wheelchair. You can't get into the park without it. So that's where that comes in. And then also with the city of North Pole, we were maintaining a little ski trail there that goes, it goes with Santa Claus House too on some of the property back there. We go from City Hall, does a little loop there back on that through. So the vision always has been that potentially, because you have the school there, you have Santa Claus House and all their property there, big tourist attraction. Then you have the City Hall, that this park could be a really significant component of North Pole city life, I guess. Could you go to the next?
Yeah.
Map or something?
Yeah.
We'll go to the next one. I was just showing you that some of the challenges we have with the street. So this is the park itself. And this was, so about 10 years ago, we used to have a landscape architect that worked for the borough in Parks Direct. And she did these little drawings for us for all the CIPs. There's been a lot of iterations of it over the years. But mostly it's just that we'll begin designing this in this next winter. We intended to go and see if we could do a city council meeting or two with the city of North Pole. I didn't know this was going to get pulled this year. I kept asking Mayor Ward to do it year after year, and eventually Mayor Hopkins made this a higher priority. We felt like North Pole deserved a project, we've been doing several things. So anyway, this is one of the projects. So you have the trails component and you have access to the street, which is where we interface with, federal highways money in the city. Go to the next one.
The next slide or next project?
Oh, you can do this slide. This was kind of our original vision. Though, you know, since this time, we thought a lot about the fact that the school district already has a lot of free parking. So, and we don't really interact with the school district in the sense of the patrons aren't at the park generally when the school's in session. So we talked a little bit about maybe improving access from the school and then having less parking on the city's street. So who knows where that design is, like, we're gonna talk with the city of North Pole. You know, probably the whole council and talk about what we should do in the long run, but the idea is that they get an accessible playground and a new restroom and all that, and then this really nice trail system in there and just a nice place to do picnics and all that kind of stuff.
That's great. Groudon?
So, Groudon Park, across from the Carlton, where the gold hammers are at. So it's got lots of federal highway money in it in the last 20 years, right?
Why? How's that? How?
Well, there's all sorts of programs that are set up for safe access routes to school, access from low-income neighborhoods to the places that they play. But the bike path that got put in this park, which I don't know if it's even in this area when we originally did it, was just built by DOT a few years ago. Runs, actually,
Here.
for a second to show you, yeah.
It
So
should be here along the
this
scape.
plan was done for this,
Yeah.
for this program like 20 years ago. It finally got pulled. So there's a path that goes like this in front of the skate park, goes all the way through the park over to the school. And then it goes between these two ball fields over here to that crossing, a safe crossing here to the river. This is similar. This project will be funded this year in our CIP for the design and scope. So we'll be designing it.
But that's for the bike path, so.
It could be, no, this will be for us to have a new playground or a new
Oh,
picnic shelter
okay.
there, but in conjunction with that. Generally, we try to improve either parking or access for the public to those things, and that's generally where we collaborate with FAST and DOT. Interestingly enough, if you go back to the last slide for a second, this is kind of interesting. I don't know when I did this drawing, but we had 2 mayors in a row that were really enamored with the idea of closing Moore Street from here to here. You know, and expanding Pioneer Park a little bit. And at one point, I don't know if many of you were around, but Mayor Whitaker did this thing called Sheena River Bend, which was a whole new development around the Carlson Center. And one of the concepts was, C.B. Bettersworth did a big bunch of drawings of it. One of the concepts was that the street would be closed from the Carlson Center up to that corner at Moore Street, basically, so that the Pioneer Park could kind of expand, because where the 2 ball fields are there at Moore Street, these are called Optimus and Rankin. I was part of where the hatchery was gonna go back when we were arguing about this for a couple of years. And this was one location that they considered because they thought you could have it as part of kind of the attraction for Pioneer Park. They never ended up doing it. The original hatchery was supposed to have a tourist component added to it, but the state pulled funding for that when the project got more expensive. But the idea is they're gonna have this humongous aquarium in this education center. And there was some desire at that point for that to also be a component of what people can see when they're in Pioneer Park. So when we do the design concept for this, we'll probably also look and see where we can tie in some better connectivity to the surrounding neighborhoods.
But wasn't the hatchery they built supposed to have a tourist component?
It's supposed to.
That's what you said.
I don't think that it was, I vaguely remember that there was like $1 million in the project for that. It got pulled, then Mayor Whitaker got mad and told them to put it back in, and I have no idea if they ever put it in. They're supposed to have a big circular aquarium. They have one down in Juneau at that one where you can walk around and look at the salmon. It's really cool.
Is that a
But I
state,
don't know if they ever did it.
is that a state-owned hatchery or?
Yeah. It was,
It's not like we can go back in and rebuild something.
it it was just the idea to help, you know, and have an attraction for the
Yeah.
park. Anyway, there's just some pictures of the complex. It's in,
Was that borough land they gave to the state?
it's a 50-year lease. We removed the ball field and gave it to them.
To put a factory?
Yeah. The project was complicated because they thought they could use waste heat from the power plant. It got all weirded out because they wanted to be next to it, and then they decided it wasn't worthwhile. Then they got moved. There was like 5 locations chosen. They finally ended up on that. So anyway, the playground's 30 years old, falling apart. So we got a new skate park there, which is really popular. And our hope is to get a new playground, a new pump
Pump
park.
track.
And you guys know what those are? Kids riding bikes on hills. You can make them paved too, so kids can do skateboarding and roller skating on it too.
Yep.
Pretty cool. This is Kiwanis on the other side, but it will be a project that I expect will grow to where we'll start to have some conversations about the way that we access the park from the street because of the increased traffic we'll get and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I thought it was interesting for you guys. We've already been here a bunch of times for ped paths and sidewalks and the crosswalk. They were all added. The corners at Second and Wilbur that are so beautiful with flowers, DOT did that.
Wait, where's
I'll
that?
go pull it a little. You can't really see it very well here, but this whole intersection was redone for
Oh, yeah.
parks. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, this whole intersection was redone when the city and DOT redid Lower Second Avenue. So those are the kind of interfaces that we have. They built those things for us. As a part of the project to make it more appealing.
Cool.
You want next?
All right.
The way that all of the funding interacts on all of this is so fascinating.
Some of these projects have 8 or 10 funding sources. Literally, you can get lots of various funding sources. And sponsors. For Parks and Rec, we have private sponsors, which is also something that happens. The borough puts a lot of the money in. You build a project with partners. So, but it helps when we have the concept and the design to begin with. Because then we can sell components to other people.
Right,
So-
there's so much assumption that like if you're funding one thing means you're not funding something else, like that's what the general public assumes. That, well, if you're funding all these parks, you could be spending that money somewhere else, and this is like, well, that's not true, because so much of the money is coming from a pot that is not available to education or not available to, it's just really.
Yes, a lot of our projects are built with federal dollars, foundation dollars, state dollars, and they all come together into project. Actually, sometimes the most difficult thing is to figure out who's supposed to be in charge of the project. You always really love it, depends on who it is. Every project manager is great. DOT's been a really great partner. Federal Highways has been great, and our Public Works Department, all great to work with, but different ways that they manage projects. So, so this one is just out there so folks would be aware. So one of the last pieces to the Tano Lakes development in the eyes of our department. So we think a lot about access to parks. It's not necessarily what other people think of, but the majority of our facilities in the borough are not very accessible. They're not built up to a standard where somebody with a walker in the winter can get into the park, or somebody in a wheelchair, or, you know, the borough didn't build its facilities. The state didn't build their facilities like that in the 70s. And so a lot of our facilities were built in the 70s, and their access to the streets are still 1970s. We may have a brand new playground in it, but we don't have a great place to park. We're not amazingly accessible to the neighborhood. So a neighborhood kid who goes to his park has to walk in the center of the street for half a mile. Or we all know that with the school issue with kids getting run over before, where, you know, they have to walk a quarter mile in the middle of the street because we haven't given them a real safe way to do it. So Tanana Lakes, we finished the Lake Street access last year. If you haven't been down there, it's awesome. New bathrooms at the swim beach, new bathrooms at the non-motorized boat launch. Got a lot of cool amenities all through a program from Federal Highways called FLAP, which is Federal Lands Access Program, which we access with the help of the military, basically. Because a lot of the lands that we're accessing are stuff that we lease from the military or we rent from the military. So they've been very supportive, but the next step for the park really is to get a bike path or a sidewalk that goes from town all the way to the park. So there was a grant, I don't know what this one's called, Raise, A-tip, might have been A-tip. We applied 2 times in a row, not for the project to build it, just for the project to plan it. So what route are we actually gonna take? So, I mean, many people assume, I think, that we would take Lathrop, but there's a lot of private property issues with that, right-of-way issues with that. So maybe the better way to bring a bike path would be Cushman or even Pegger. Because the borough owns the entire, everything below the levee. So we could go down any one of those routes. So mainly we're looking to plan the route and then get a rough estimate of what it would cost to construct. And then figure out how to partner together with all the various entities, the city, the state, to make it happen. But at this stage, we're just applying to get funds to plan it. Figure out which route is the most,
It seems like there should be 2 routes or
maybe,
even more.
So a non-motorized route?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, non-motorized route from town. The
Can
sidewalk,
I be devil's advocate?
Yeah,
Is there a high demand? I mean, I'm not discounting that should be access for all. Is that a high demand thing? Like, do you see a lot of non-motorized?
I think what we see is the more that we make, non-motorized access available for bikes and pets, the more we get. You drive down Farmers Loop every day, right?
No.
At least I do. Drive down Farmers Loop every day in the summer and sometimes I can count 100 people walking on.
If you build it, they will come kind of thing.
Yeah, so
Right.
do we, I don't know, I could give you any numbers on walk-ins. That's a very dangerous place to walk through town.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tana Lake. So would we get a lot more walkers? It's
I-
just,
I think if we would, I mean, I've biked to go play like ultimate kayak frisbee and biking from town to the lake and seeing other people biking it.
I can see my team walking.
Biking.
That's a lift for most people who walk down.
I think after you build it, they'll come.
so I don't,
Yeah.
and there is one little more component to this project. We also have another project that's running that I didn't want, that wasn't prepared to show today. It's to finish the kind of the paved route all the way around the park and the lake. We have the route
On this one.
finished. Yeah, we have the route finished. It's just not all, easily understood how you get around the lake. It's not all paved. Ultimately, someday that would kind of be the idea that you would be able to bike from town and bike all the way around the park. In the winter, you'd be able to walk through town.
Correct.
Wouldn't it make sense to do the path around the lake first?
The way this is done is you chase the dollars. So you chase who's willing. So you start out with a plan that the assembly approves us to do. So that's where we get our elected body, understand what we're doing.
Sure, sure.
And then we apply. And so sometimes you don't get it in the right order. The person who's giving you the money, like the borough's supposed to build the playground, but we're not gonna build it for 10 years. But DOT will build us our driveway now.
Mhm.
So you say, okay, we'll take the driveway,
Sure,
thanks.
sure.
So in this case, first meeting plan.
That's the orange
Good.
line.
Should call it.
The
should call it-
2020 census, it's the census urban boundary. Yeah, there's the dash lines are the transit routes. So as they are currently, so the orange line is at
So
Van Horn.
For our department, census boundaries are very important. Because a lot of federal programs are tied to the neighborhoods that you're trying to get funds for, so. You have a lot higher chance of finding federal dollars if you have a low income neighborhood in your census tract.
Yep.
Unfortunately for us, or fortunately for us. This community does not have many that qualify as extremely low income. I think
Is that true?
Anchorage is the only
Yeah.
place in the state that actually has one.
I was gonna say, that's insane.
Yeah.
It's
Now, you
pretty
can
difficult.
go through and do a census of an individual street or neighborhood, but you have to pay to do it. So the census breaks them up into tracts. And you have to accept their tract, but some funding sources will let you go and do your own data gathering off the street. But we've never done it because you have to pay something quite a bit.
Yeah.
Is transit not?
At the moment.
No.
Not all the way.
Not all the way.
Yeah,
We have to petition them and that's just one of those things that wasn't on we just got laid through bill. Okay, good idea. You will ask next year. We'll ask this year.
Is that
That's
something,
something.
is that something that would, we're a group, we can do things like that. Should we ask or go to assembly and say, hey, let's get Mac Transit to do something?
So I think maybe not to get too far down this like track, but we have another group that's the walk and roll group. That's previously our bike and ped, and this would be the perfect project for them in terms of connectivity because they're the ones that are they're representing transit now. There's a couple new seats on that for transit. They also do non-motorized stuff, so they can help basically like evaluate this and find funding and yeah. So some of these projects sort I think really well on the transportation side to the RAC group is what it's called now, and some of the stuff like the kind of niceties and what's where and how you design the playgrounds, I think that's more like PEC. So there's, I think, some good tie-ins between these projects and.
So then the last quick one to show you is just, because it's gotten a lot of news lately.
Is this Veterans Park?
No, it's that's already, the contract's gonna be let Thursday, for Veterans Park for next Thursday, so we're ready to
You
go.
get all your money?
You bet, and we got a great day. So
Cool.
we're very happy.
That's good.
Because that's what made us talk to you guys, isn't it?
That's how it kind of started, was like, oh, Parks and Rec is doing stuff in the areas that this group looks at, and yeah.
So a lot of people have heard about the Alaska Long Trail. So why is the Borough Parks and Rec Department involved in Alaska Long Trail? Well, it's really just where is the Long Trail gonna end in Fairbanks? And then what borough property and state property will it cross between here and Nana, well, until here it gets out of the borough. So the last 2 years, we've applied for a federal grant from a thing called RAISE. To do the planning effort, for our segment of it. We can't ask for money for, where anywhere outside of the borough. We're just asking for where it ends in our community. So, there's, of course, a big motorized component for here, looking quite a bit at having a high use motorized trail as part of it, but that can also be separated to having a bike and a ped component that are separate or the same. At the moment, the kind of people are leaning toward the Equinox, bringing them to the university being the end for the ped kind of bike component. And that we go through the state forest, through Cripple Creek, Iceberg, our park, up on the DOT's right of way, maybe on the highway and bring them into Esther, where you could maybe have a parking lot there next to Extra Gas, or four-wheelers, dirt bikes, snow machines in the winter. That's kind of the idea. This is the webpage is put together by Alaska Trails. This is not ours. We have kind of our own vision, what it might look like, but really we need to have a engagement with the community and determine what they want. But we do want to participate, as we're going to be determinants of a several 100-mile trail that may very well be very popular some days.
Yeah.
But my personal vision of this, I want to make sure that people know this, we're a motorized town. And earlier there was a chance for some funding for this project that kind of got wrapped around people feeling like it was going to be a walking path like the Appalachian Trail. That's not the way we see it. We see it that you get on your four-wheeler in North Pole and you drive all the way to Nana for lunch. That would be perfectly acceptable for us. Dirt bike, because that's what we do here.
Not everyone does that.
Well, fair enough, but the other half.
I don't see why they,
Or snow machines or.
one half that gets to decide the other how
Well,
to use of public lands.
Rated trail systems, that you have the option of doing motorized or non-motorized.
Because I don't see how, I don't see how pedestrians and motor vehicles work well together.
That wasn't our vision really didn't include that. The idea was the route that's kind of where Equinox is at would be up on the hills on that side of the road. And the route for motorized vehicles and all that would be down by the river along the state's property. Through our property at Iceberg and then up in the making the state. So we have a lot of projects going right now, but many of them have federal highway dollars in them. I mean, there's 2 or 3 getting finished. Right now, there's 2 or 3 being planned. Black Road entrance into North, into Chin Lake, the parking lot at Pioneer Park for the river access, those are all early highway funded projects partnered with DOT. And then they also have a park component. So.
Great.
We love the partnership.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, not at all. Thanks for coming in and sharing all this. It sounds like maybe the best thing to do is after this meeting, I'll talk with you guys
Yeah.
specifically about how to parse this out between probably these 2 committees, the walk and roll and the PEC. And then we can like basically prioritize based on schedule, like what we can do to help. And I'll get that on subsequent meetings here. Great. Any thoughts or kind of closing comments from the PEC members on any of these projects?
Me. We discovered your part for Veterans Park. Was it by accident? Kind of, it was some kind of.
I think it was just in a
input, and then we thought, wait a minute, how come I'm just saying, John, we didn't realize it was happening. And we thought, well, that's a shame, because we could have really been involved in some great input. And that's how this conversation's come about, is to say, why aren't we talking to each other? And so hopefully.
Yep.
It was an interesting discovery that we're all in each other's backyards.
We have this conversation all the time.
Yeah. Like secret.
How do you get
secret.
people to actually notice you're doing something? I mean, you could put a flashing sign in front of their house that says, we're renovating the next door park, and find that
No
they
one.
come to us when we're starting construction and say, why did you
Yeah.
ever come to us? But,
Uh-huh.
well, had a flashing sign on your street for a year, said, we're doing this, but it is hard because people don't use the newspaper anymore. I think most people don't even read the news monitor, or we talk about that all the time. Facebook, how many people do we actually get to come to Facebook or to our flip page? It's very difficult. And Vets Park is interesting because we did get some pushback on that, saying people saying, well, we didn't know anything. We were planning it for 2 years. We had like 5 public meetings.
That's
I don't know how,
That is shocking.
how people could have missed it, right? But they do, unless they're really interested in it.
Don't happen, yeah.
Great. Well, we've got Meredith Maple in the room with the Fairbanks Children's Museum, and I was hoping we'll just skip ahead and then we'll backtrack. But if we could skip ahead to item 7F, which is the community grant program.
Page.
Page 19 in your packet. So to give an overview on what this is, we talked about this before. This has kind of come organically up through the Turner project, which if you recall was an idea about improving the Turner Street corridor, basically the 4 segments north of 5th Avenue that one is right away owned by this building, Key Bank, and their owners Usabelli, but then the other 3 which are city right away. So that's the blocks between 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th. And one of the issues that happened at our board level was that there was concern over maintenance and ownership and responsibility of any improvements that were put in the Turner Street right away. So I think one pathway that we might have discovered for being able to do these improvements in the right of way is providing funding via a grant program like Good Sense that GVA offers. So I invited Meredith in today to basically talk about this segment of Turner Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue, right adjacent to the Children's Museum. And something that she had brought up before was that they would love to use this space. They already use this space for outdoor activities, and we'd love to see it as part of a pedestrian corridor connecting what is soon to be one of Fairbanks' friendly lots, the Sadler's lot, up into basically the downtown core as a walking path. So this segment is kind of it seems like a slam dunk for this program because there's already an active user group in it. And I wanted to just invite Meredith here today to maybe say a few words about it, their thoughts and kind of hopes for the site, and maybe some plans for moving forward on it. So if you want to go ahead, Meredith.
The initial Turner Street conversation was happening. We don't own the building. We hope to own the building. But as of now, we don't. But when it first came up as part of that project, we were super excited to get to activate that space. Right now, we use that as outdoor space for like summer camps and different programs, and it's just a chunk of concrete, which we make a lot of amazing things happen on a chunk of concrete, but, what we see at other museums, other children's museums across the country is, outdoor exhibits that are very, seriously installed outside of the museum, so it's something that the community can interact with without paying for admission. So not only would it allow us to use the space for our campers, but it provides access. Whether that's, you know, family shows up and we're full and they have to wait to come in, that there's something for them to do. Or if it's families that show up and we're closed and they didn't realize it, even though we've been closed on Mondays for 10 years, like 10 families show up every Monday. So there's lots of available use for it, outside of our actual intentional programming. But when it's great, it's like a physical, a little advertisement. There's something in this big radio piece. But so when the Turner Street project, when it sort of, I don't know, lost steam for what the initial dream was, that was a bummer. And when Corey brought up that there was the potential for, you know, maybe a grant-based program that we could still do our little piece, the grant's already written essentially. Like this is a no-brainer in our industry for, what is already in the exhibits already exist, and they exist for, you know, the Madison Children's Museum has these, so they're already in spaces that have really extreme weather. They're already in spaces where they have complete public access. So like these are instruments. There's different versions that don't have the mallet, because as soon as you have an additional piece, it's gone. So there's lots of different versions where it's just meant to be interacted with hands, but they've already been, these companies have been making these, they've been in extreme weather and in outdoor public spaces, outside of children's museums, schools, all sorts of things, all over the country. So there are high quality ones, prefabricated, that would be perfect in our space. And, you know, depending on the funding level that's available, maybe it's just a few instruments, but then when we initially were sort of dreaming of it, that there's also like seating structures.
Is this the Madison's one that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Outdoor play space?
And then they have one on the roof as well.
Cool.
Both are open year round. So there's, the product exists. The grant, you know, proposal exists, the funding source doesn't yet. So if this were available, we would be if we were to apply for it.
Would something like this also help your capital campaign?
Yeah, because as soon as right now, what we exist in is, I mean, we know that we're tied to the local team, we know that we're tied to where we are. But we do come up against, well, couldn't do that, building's expensive, we should go somewhere else, like. There's a lot of reasons why we are where we are.
Yes.
And so actually investing in the physical space shows that like it's a step towards what we want to do. Our vision for owning that building would include doing this. So this would be a step of the capital campaign that's actually done ahead of time. That could be incorporated into what we're asking for. So it certainly helps. It certainly supports our long-term goal for the space.
Right.
You can ask Cal Worthington for some sponsorship. Huh?
Yeah, well, now it's not even, well, it was his son owned the building, Rod, but now there's been another transfer to Rod's son. Who has kids. So young kids, maybe we'll finally have a Worthington that owns the building that understands why we're so.
Value.
So I hope that this comes to fruition, so we can apply for it and activate that space. And our landlords, so not the property owner, but our landlords, Alaska Commercial Properties is super supportive of us.
To the point where they wouldn't work on that anymore? Huh?
Probably not. They probably want to keep their tools.
Which is, we're really enemy there.
So, yeah,
To say, hey, by the way.
yeah, on the On the plat, it's pedestrian only, so they're not allowed to park in that space. But we did remove the planters on the block to the south, and there's additional parking there now adjacent to the Sukas building. So yeah, the hope, really what this all kind of came down to was we want to create a safe crossing table between the parking lot, which is kind of down here in this image, across the road here and into the Children's Museum. So removing those vehicles just helps visibility, but also eventually working towards this elevated table idea as a crossing, something you see in other communities and is super common. It's basically a big elevated crosswalk, but the width of that right of way. We've had some discussions with the city about that, and initially, they're on board and doesn't create any.
With the purchase of that building, it
Sure.
also comes with the parking lot.
It comes with the building where Supas was
Yeah.
and the parking lot next to Supas, yeah.
Fun to see that whole thing painted like some sort of. Gosh, there's
I got
that.
a dream for that.
Yeah.
Do you know what? We've got woolly mammoth footprint shapes, because this could happen like tomorrow. Just go out with paint.
We used to have-
What happened to your sign?
it got tagged, but it just got fixed. It's getting ready. The guy that initially did it came and fixed it for us for the choice.
Oh, that's so nice.
So yeah,
No.
We get it every time.
so next steps on this grant are going to be, or this process are going to, we'll talk with you about kind of budget and what you're thinking. The funding for this is coming out of our undesignated funds. So again, it's community money that we're allowed to apply. Depending on the amount, we'll probably have to take it up with the board if it's over a certain threshold. But our hope is, we can, basically come down to an amount, and we would just grant that over to you. We wouldn't be providing like project management or anything like that. It would be on you. And then there'd be some agreement on like the maintenance of those. Because there are a lot of utilities in that area, there's probably going to be some restrictions on what you can put there and how movable it has to be. Because it is still city right away. I don't think Jerry Cleworth has broached the idea about turning over those right of ways to private ownership. Sort of like what happened here at the top of the corridor adjacent to the Key Bank building. But that may be a long ways off in terms of, if that right of way was ever sold off. And it would likely come with deed restrictions, like you can't put a physical structure on it because there's utilidors underneath it.
So because it's still under city control, does that have to come to the city council and say, here's what we want to do?
I'm not sure, but Jeremiah's got his hand raised, so he may have something to add to the discussion here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is there another idea besides a raised crosswalk across there, Corey? Because my operators don't like plowing over the already existing one at Fifth in the school district. We'd rather have lights or something to keep it flat and consistent.
I mean, none of this is set in stone right now. It's just pixels and images. So
Right.
yeah.
I'm just
But,
trying to bring that up so people can think that, Public Works isn't a fan of raised areas.
Yeah. Okay, noted. All right. So Sue, back to your question about if this is something that goes before city council. You're talking about transfer of.
David, I just wasn't sure if something like this used in a public right way is. I want all of this to happen. So don't get me wrong. I just didn't know if that was a process that I don't know anything about. Carrie would, right? She'd be calling you and saying, hey, we have this in front of council.
I think so. I mean, if it came down to that, talking with, I was in Eugene a couple month ago or so, and they've been doing a lot of like stuff in their right of ways and improvements like this. And they said that, generally their process, the best way to keep it moving smoothly is that they have plan guidelines that the downtown plan is approved. And then the specifics of how it's executed doesn't go back before the council because of the additional, because they basically approve the guidance of it. And then they don't have purview over the specificity because it gets really messy and slows things way down. So,
I want this done tomorrow.
well, we just got to get a number and put in an order at this point. So those will be the next things that we work with Meredith on.
It's got the love sign there as it stands, but it's a great idea to make that an Instagram spot or some sort of highlight. Street.
And that's Specifically, yeah, kind of, it could be a giant mammoth. Yeah, I mean, as part of the Turner Street project was glomming onto the idea of creating these Instagram moments around that people want to photograph that are very like specific to Fairbanks. So placemaking in general. So that's kind of the hope with this project. So some things off the shelf, but then some things that are very custom.
Adjusting your order.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for coming up. Appreciate it. Right.
Pop and run from one building to the next.
Be good.
All right, so let's go back, kind of keeping an eye on time here. We do have a bunch of stuff to get through. We've got about 40 minutes left in the meeting, so I'll move a little fast through some of these, but I just want to make this group aware. Some of these aren't necessarily PEC programs, but jumping back to, let's go to 7B, the high school fabrication as one of our collaborations with other local organizations. That is on page 9 of the packet. So I wanted to bring this up. Really, this has a little bit more to do with the RAC group, but we've been talking about making Fairbanks specific bike infrastructure for a while now. We did get a set of staple racks, which you can see pictured there in the upper right-hand corner from Sportworks to basically get something out in the public soon. But we're also collaborating with Peter Daly, or Pete Daly, who's the welding instructor at Hutch, to develop some Fairbanks specific bike racks. So he runs a program every summer called Girls Who Weld, and they build bike racks. You've probably seen some of them around the community. They generally have something that calls out the program, or they've got their initials in it. But we're working with them to essentially purchase the materials for them, and then they provide the work. Pete is working on basically training up, a generation of welders or several generations of welders here to make stuff in Fairbanks. And then that is kind of workforce development for, projects on the slope and other industries in town here. So this is the first kind of the pass at this program. Right now, for this first year, they're going to do 10 staple style racks like this. They'll also have a foot on them so that they can be bolted to rails, so they can be placed in different areas temporarily. When we talk about the parklet program here as the first new business item, these types of racks will be in that program. So when we tilt up like a curbside public space, the racks, made here locally will be like featured as part of the amenities that come with that curbside, outdoor space. So a couple like customizable features. They're going to get this Fairbanks bike friendly thing. You guys may recognize that logo from our bikeways map, that we put out every year. So we have local businesses that participate in this, and we're adding some new features to our maps this year, which include the availability of bike racks, bathrooms, water, bottle filling stations, etc. So we're kind of flushing out the amenities that go on our maps, and we've got, I think, over a dozen new businesses that want to host bike repair kits. And we've got a big list of folks that want bike racks. So part of this program is developing a bike rack that if there's no space in the sidewalk area, then it can be placed in various areas without permanent location.
Just get painted. I forgot. Don't you do?
They're gonna sandblast and paint. Yeah. The rack itself and the little kind of emblem or logo that we're attaching to them. So this was a test cut. They've got a water jet cutter there at Hutch that they could cut this out. So we're tweaking the logo so the B doesn't fall out. But these will be attached in some manner to the first round of staples. And we're anticipating hopefully a multi-year program with these guys to kind of keep tweaking it and developing it, but ultimately have a type of bike rack that's ubiquitous throughout the community. So when you see it, it's legit sponsored.
So the heart symbol that small?
This is their first pass at it. What we're thinking is that it'll be around this size, and then there'll be a bar holding it in the middle. Because you want essentially a cell, like an enclosed area that you can lock through. Otherwise, if it doesn't have this kind of closed cell, you can unbolt it and just slide the bike rack, the bike right off. So we're working on it. Thanks for coming, David.
Thank you.
Yep. So that's the bike racks, that's with the welding shop. The second piece, I'm meeting with 2 carpentry instructors from Hutch and North Pole this afternoon to talk about fabricating a couple different things. The first kind of pass would be fabricating wood furniture that is using the Better Block Wiki library. So that's essentially furniture that can just be milled out of a sheet of plywood and then put together without fasteners. This will be used in the parklets that we'll talk about. And my hope is to potentially expand that to a second program that can feed into the Polaris Plan B site, which is another item that we'll talk about at the end of the meeting today. So this is the early stages of this conversation, but wanted to share with this group that we're working on basically local fabrication of the types of pedestrian and non-motorized amenities that we could start using in our town. So any committee member questions or thoughts on these 2 things between welding and kind of carpentry programs at the schools?
That bike rack, I keep thinking that it would be neat, you could almost do a little etching. Maybe not, but there would be, do a little QR code that would drive you to this map or for the parking stuff or, you could do something neat with that.
Okay.
Square that you mill weld on.
Yeah.
So most everybody has a phone at this point.
We could, easily do that with stickers to start and then something more substantial. Yeah. Anybody online, questions or thoughts about the welding carpentry programs? Not seeing any. We'll go ahead and move on to the next item. So this is the friendly parking program on page 10 of your packet. This is it's basically come about from a number of different sources. The first one is that the Downtown Fairbanks plan had a big section that identified parking as being a potential barrier or a perceived barrier to accessing downtown businesses, that there's not adequate parking in the places that people want it when they want it. Some of this is just lack of information, but some of it is actual kind of signs that are considered unfriendly, that there's a lot of different signs around the community that talk about towing and sort of glass half empty signage. So we're working on a program with the Downtown Parking Garage as kind of one of our major partners to put together a website and a friendly lot program that basically gets private business owners and public landowners to open up their lots and provide glass half full signage that invites people to park there at certain times. So right now with the you can't park here from this time to this time, it basically puts it on the parker to infer that they can during the other times, but since there's no permission, people are really reluctant to park there. So this is a signing program, and it has a big website component also that aggregates basically any information about accessing downtown. So in this phase 1 of it, there will be maps, there will be information about programs, and there will be a whole section on the parking garage about when you can access it, how much it costs, if you want to get monthly or yearly parking passes, all that information is here. And then also a section on citations so that people are aware of the potential risk of violating some of the parking rules, what you might get for parking over time, or expired tags, or you're in a no parking zone, etc. So the hope is to just make all this information very public, and so that people can make informed decisions about coming downtown and feel more confident about it. So I won't go through every page of this. It's really in there for the group's kind of review. None of this is really PEC in terms of like granular infrastructure, minus the signs and the placement of those. Sue and Phoebe signed up to help coordinate basically with the few owners that we've got signed up for this first round to locate where on the lots these signs should be placed. So these are the lots that we're targeting for this phase 1 of the program. So again, there's 2 categories here. There's an all-day friendly, and then there's an after-hours friendly. After hours means 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. And then it also means weekends, 6 a.m. to 1 a.m., kind of like the all day. So Sadler's is excited to lend their lot. They like the idea of just having more people there. It makes their business look more patronized or used. And then the Fairbanks School District South Lot is another one that we're hoping will be an all-day friendly. And then the after-hours lots there identified. The State of Alaska Courthouse approved this yesterday. The school district will know again for sure on Friday, but they already more or less do that. And then Interior Aids is also interested in the program. They have some concerns about liability that we're hoping to address. And then with luck, I'll be able to talk with Chad and Usabelli about signing the Salties and Bobby's lots in this way. So our goal is to kind of bracket the downtown right now and have these kind of quadrants where parking is available. And then of course there's the parking garage, which is a 24/7 resource. So the goals here are to have essentially this website that people can go to and feel again like really confident about. I'm coming downtown, I want information about that. Where can I park? If there's any closures or upcoming events, they can be reflected in this interactive map, or there can be, signs posted here. But the map shows you where you can park during the daytime and then where you can park basically in this after hours or weekends condition. So Olivia's been working on this, and the carrot to businesses that sign up is that you'll be able to click on any one of these lots, and there will be a pop-up with the owner, their website, basically recognition that they're making this available. So that's the gist of the program here. I don't know if the group has any questions or thoughts about this. We're hoping to soft launch it at the end of May, and then, basically open it up to the broader public, first or second week of June, with it being in place for Midnight Sun Festival.
6 a.m. to 1 a.m.
6 a.m. to 1 a.m. is to discourage overnight parking. And there's also a lot of street clearing happens or snow clearing happens between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. So the owners were interested in limiting it to that so that you don't get people parking overnight.
Wouldn't it be the other way around, 1 a.m. to 6 a.m.?
No. You want people to not be there from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Just can't park there.
6
1
a.m.
a.m.
6 a.m.
Right.
Wouldn't it be reversed?
No.
Nope.
It's not 6.
No, because it's from the evenings to just after midnight, and then you have to leave at 1 a.m. So you can't leave your car there overnight. But then on the weekends, you can park there early in the morning, and then because there's 2 a.m.s, it looks weird. But we could say till midnight or something like that. But some businesses close around midnight, and didn't want people to have to.
Okay.
That's my only comment.
Yeah,
Just the time.
agree. Yep.
We'd all be standing in the cold with a.
Few drinks.
Yeah. Yeah. But the website, from discussions with the Downtown Association and the board of Fairbanks Parking Authority, and Jamie, this is something that they've wanted to do for a while. It's part of our advertising package from the CMAQ grant that we're giving them, which is the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality, is basically doing good advertising and PR for the parking garage, but we were able to loop into that all things downtown access. So our bike-friendly parking program and, where bike lockers are going to be, improvements to the garage coming up, the, parking garage improvements and access. This will all have a home. And then ultimately, we really want downtown businesses to be able to share this with their, basically patrons that, hey, when you come downtown next, look at these programs, look for these signs. These are available for your convenience. So the hope is that when we start talking to people in the future about doing things downtown, the first thing they complain about is not parking. We want that to go away.
Getting a ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So with that, I'll open it up to any comments or questions from the committee or the public on this program.
It's the salty bodies lot to be on the table.
Oh.
Well, we haven't discussed it with Glenn yet, so it's not a given. And there were some questions that came up with, talking to Salties and Bobbies and concern about their patrons being crowded out then. I don't know if they have an agreement in place, but.
I don't know what the agreement is with them and Chad, but
Mhm. Mhm. Right. Yeah. I think that's the issue with the assigned spaces. And then you don't want to move into another space because that's for another business. And yeah.
I don't know what Chad would do to coordinate a decision like this with his tenants, if anything, but
Yeah. Well, this signage clearly says like, public parking 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. So it would be a piece of information for, the public to know. I've also found, that when you do these types of programs, we can give the owners basically a little flyer that says like, you put it on the windshield wiper and it says, hey, you're in violation of when this is public access. And it's not a ticket, but it's a reminder to folks that they can't be there during those times. I have the issue at Salty's all the time. If I'm not here by 10 a.m., my spot's gone. So, we're trying to nudge people, but by using a carrot and not a stick. Like you can park here during these times and not just go with no type signage. So.
whatever that is distracting.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. It's my fidget toy. Yeah. Any questions from folks online or thoughts about this program? Love it, hate it? Think it's a great idea? Terrible idea.
Excellent idea.
Okay. Oh, there's something in the chat. Love it from Bethany. Terrific.
We're gonna paint an outline of your car on your parking spot. Just gonna say, this is Phoebe's. Phoebe's spot.
All right. So we'll jump ahead to the next action or the next item. That's the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan and Policy Update. That's on page 17 of the packet. This is just there for a reminder. There's a group that's working on the update to this. We had a meeting today that I canceled just due to some other conflicts and having, both Jackson and Olivia out. So we're hoping to continue this conversation in June with, sometime later this summer, putting it before the policy board and getting our policy updated. It's about 10 years out of date at this point. And I think there's better information about these policies out there. Something that happened recently with DOT was that the Complete Streets information at federal highways, or sorry, not DOT, it's federal highways. All the Complete Streets information on the federal highway site disappeared.
Yeah.
Was completely taken down.
Yeah.
Sure, it was DEI. Yeah.
God forbid you have a wheelchair.
But yeah, exactly. DEI, I mean, in this case, it's accessibility. So DEIA is really the like broader term that I think they pulled the Complete Streets stuff out of. But because it's in law, and because they haven't gotten rid of that law in terms of fast planning has to spend a certain portion of its planning funds on Complete Streets efforts, we're continuing to work on it. So executive order be damned, I guess. Orphan lots. Next item. This is an effort that we started, I'd say 2 or 3 meetings ago.
Yeah, kind of languished.
It's languished a bit, and what I want to do is try to put some guardrails on it so that we can really focus in. The orphan lots, the purpose of this was to identify some of these remnants that get left behind after big project efforts. I mean, one of the ones that we've talked about quite a bit is along 3rd Avenue by is it Woolly Rhino and Joanne's?
Yeah.
Yep. Another one is the bridge at University had some leftover spaces, and then the improvements at University and Airport Way. I'll pull the map up to show those. But the purpose of this project was to identify some of these and potentially come up with a toolbox for how you address them. Either proactively during the design phase, try to turn the rudder on what happens with that land, or after the fact, how to ensure it doesn't just become fallow land.
Hey, that's a great point. We should throw that into part of our complete streets checklist.
Interesting. Yep. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Why is PV not on the complete streets?
I don't know, but we lost a couple seats or a couple members in seats, so we can. Phoebe, if you want to do it.
Really smart.
Okay.
Have her on there.
Great.
She'll say no to all her stuff.
Inject reality. Right now only Bob and Yvette are doing that. All right. So what I want to have this group do is basically look at the map after this meeting or some point during the next month or two, and look at the sites that we've sort of flagged. There's a couple different categories here. There's these surplus right-of-way locations that we've identified. Some of these belong to the borough, some belong to DOT, some have transferred hands between them. But I want to have this group take a peek at them, and then in a focused way, maybe starting in the fall, we work on how these can be, reallocated or better used. These kind of dead end roundabouts now that are showing up along Airport Way as projects are redone. Part of this became an expanded parking lot, and there's a large roundabout here. It's kind of the same fate that as of right now. Turnaround, sorry, cul-de-sac. Yeah, thank you. That, yeah, I'm sorry. I totally used the wrong terminology there. Here's another cul-de-sac after they renovate. This is what's currently in the design. And under the banner of we need turnaround for emergency vehicles there. So at any rate, these types of things, there was a building there, and now there's not, and now there's just going to be additional asphalt there in a. Okay. Right, but not a place for private construction or developable lot.
Yeah, which is taking it out of the tax rolls, right?
It's expanded right away with low property value.
Cul-de-sac. There's.
Because they're closing 14th Avenue off. Yeah. And Airport Way is a controlled access road, so you're really limited into where you can have, yeah.
Called functional area, that intersection, so it just introduces conflicts.
It's a dump street for sure.
But I don't understand why I just can't go down Lacey. Like, close off the road to the total left of it. There's no 14th Avenue.
Or what's this road here?
That's like an alleyway.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, I'd love to have folks take a peek at this map. There's a couple other categories of things in here, snow dumps and ash dumps. So. What?
Don't you remember?
Yes,
Talked about
it has. Yep. Is the concern that these become really low tax value parcels then, and then they just become a maintenance suck without really returning any value to the community. Airport Way, I think is anyway, could talk at length about it, but there was a report done that envisioned some different uses for that. The right of way is enormous. It's a redundant east-west major corridor. It's
redundant how?
Well, you've got the Johansson, you've got the Mitchell, you've got College, you have a lot of roads that move east to west. This was the original, essentially like, I'm going to botch the term, but this is the original sort of freeway that ran east-west, and then it became redundant when they put in the Joe. So you've got these higher speed east-west roads, and now you just have this massive 150-foot wide right-of-way you know, that basically creates a moat between amenities and neighborhoods, and it's
Oh. College flag.
Illinois and College. Yes, we do. Was that where they took out that swept turn lane?
Wasted.
Yep. Yeah. So these kinds of areas. I mean, there was a slip lane there, or right turn lane that they asphalted over, and the right of way actually here is quite wide. It's not just the sidewalk. It extends pretty deep into those businesses.
Corner too, there's a big swath of concrete that was left behind on the. Get closer, yeah, that big swath of it,
This here?
no, keep going.
This?
Right, to the right, it's a little green treesy,
Yeah. This.
it's all concrete, and just a big swath of dumb concrete, just dumb. Did I say it enough?
Yeah, I think we got it.
Did we all get it?
Yeah. So I'll come up with a kind of homework list for the group here to look at this map, identify any other ones, and then we'll start working on how to address these.
Do you guys see how much fun we have? This is what we're here to do, John, part of it.
Some people call this one.
Yeah.
We know a lot of these lots.
Great.
They've been offered to us.
Yeah. Okay.
Recognize probably 10 of them.
Yep.
As having been shot, Parks and Rec. You guys should.
Oh.
Where they use it.
Gee, thanks for your leftovers.
Yeah,
They're not generally very nice looking.
no,
Yeah. All right.
swing right next to the highway.
Okay.
It was kind of all like Syria too. You guys made it nice. Used to be where people drove their cars.
Junk cars. Yeah.
Yeah, or their fridges or their.
Go shoot refrigerators then.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, I'll follow up after this meeting with kind of assignment to the group on the orphan lots program. We talked about that with Meredith, and now jumping to new business. We've got 15 minutes left. I'll try to get through these quickly. They're, I think, really interesting projects, and some of them are moving really fast. The off-second parklet permits. This is something that came about last summer after Lavelle's basically inadvertently kicked off the idea of using the public right-of-way for economic development or private business use for public benefit. So the area that Lavelle's had in front of there is this, the tap house had concrete jersey barriers around it and outdoor seating set on the asphalt. We kind of took that idea forward, or are taking that idea forward, to doing some structured, basically curbside parklets in a few targeted areas to do as a pilot program. The businesses right now that we have that are really interested in doing this are the Fudge Pot and Gather, which is on 2nd Avenue, and Fudge Pot is on 1st. We're working with the city and Bob. Salties we haven't talked with yet, but I'm hoping that we get something from them. We're talking with Bob Pristash about what the permitting process looks like this for, if there's a current mechanism or if something needs to be tweaked with the current system. Right now, you know, the treatment that was in front of Lavelle's would be quite expensive to deploy and really expensive to maintain in terms of like rental costs of concrete barriers. And it's really not in alignment with functionally, I think what we're seeing in other cities is necessary in this kind of placement. You know, we're not closing off a lane along a freeway where you need 50,000 pounds of concrete. This is a parking lane on a low speed road that's, you know, a 1 lane kind of drive through. So we've been working with Isaiah and the city to come up with a plan for basically what this looks like. So I'll run this kind of quick animation here that everyone can see. So right now on 2nd Avenue, there's 10 parking spaces, and we look at this program essentially grabbing space in 2 areas. The first would be a swath here in front of this is Gather right here. So it's got a coffee component that operates out of this garage area in the summer months. And then Bad Mother, which used to be further down on 2nd, is moving into this location. So they're kind of a daytime use. We're also hoping to get some buy-in from Salties to do what would be an evening use outdoor patio here, similar to what Lavelle's did by having an outdoor place where you could just take a drink and sit. I'm not sure what their capacity is, and they already have an outdoor elevated space, so this may be kind of beyond their capacity at this point. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So this is traffic control in this sense. You'd have a slight chicane here. I was over there this morning. There was a vehicle parked here and the cars were already kind of doing this sort of thing. So it's fun to see that. And then when trucks load up here, there's, we want to make sure there's adequate basically turning out of that parking lot from when Cisco or US Foods delivers. So yep, the Interior Aids group is interested in being part of the friendly parking program, so they're here. So if there are parking spaces lost or reduced for the duration of these in the summer, this lot may potentially be open for patrons of Salties to park. Or and then Gather is also Isaiah owns a big lot down here that's got about 25 spaces in it on the southwest corner of this block. So there's definitely some options here. Kind of working on what exactly this looks like. See if I can get those pieces to show back up. Doesn't look like it. Sorry, I hid my menu there. Window extensions, default tray, show tray. There we go. Okay, so it would be what ends up being here is essentially a mix of a structured deck and seating outside. So this is when we talked about that collaboration program with the high schools, that this is some of the seating that, potentially could be constructed and put here. Yeah, exactly, out of the woods. So I'm talking with a couple folks that, so let me hide this one. So, a small deck area, basically painting asphalt down here so that there's still access to this driveway, using the bike racks that are being built or our current ones, and then co-opting some of the planters that the city has already got to serve as sort of end caps on a space like this. So we also talked yesterday just really briefly about maybe using some of these planters to also make seating. So developing just some sort of inset or insert that goes down into the planter, and then you can suspend wood in between to also create some quick tilt-up furniture. And I want to talk to Julie with Festival Fairbanks about helping by, basically planting in these if they have the capacity. So this is the Parklet program. Again, we're hoping to do this on in front of Gather for kind of morning uses. Salties would be great for an afternoon use. So there's constant eyes on the street in these spaces. And then Megan Heim with Fudge Pot is also super interested in trying something like this summer. They already put tables out, and basically putting something on the other side of the curb would help maintain clear sidewalk, but give them the kind of comfortable outdoor space for their patrons to sit. And it's
Noodle restaurant might be interested, just even if you're waiting for a pickup.
yeah, just further down the block here. Yeah, there's this building here. We're trying to minimize the impact to parking so we don't get into a street fight about it. But so this kind of gets to that. Does anyone have any questions about the Parklet program or concerns, thoughts, city folks?
I'm all for the temporary use of those spaces that are, like you're saying, not really being utilized.
Great.
As long as it's temporary, it doesn't really affect, much. I mean, everybody understands you're not going to be able to get a broom into some of those areas. And
yeah,
obviously with the way it's set up, they weren't planning on me trying to get my bigger brooms in to sweep those areas. So
right.
it makes things better. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's a definitely, the hope is that in the future, this is an agreement between the adjacent business to use this kind of like our grant program, take care of the furniture, make sure that things aren't getting vandalized, contacting us if they do. And then ultimately, a lot of this furniture is, fold flat. So you can just pop it all back apart, throw it in a crate and put it, away for the winter months. We're trying to use essentially proven programs for doing this. And one of them is actually Parks and Rec. You guys might be interested in this. It's called Better Block in a Box. And all of this furniture is open source. It can be milled out of plywood, and then it can also be, kind of knocked down and taken apart and put in these crates and thrown back in the box at the end of the summer. So this kind of fold flat, inexpensive furniture is what we're hoping for a light lift prototype project like
Keep
this.
them in.
Yeah, I can share that with you guys. And it's also in the packet here. Bethany, you're worried that Salties may be opposed due to parking limitations. So I haven't talked with Salties yet. They're doing a beer tent down at Arctic Man right now. So when they get back to town, we'll check in with them and see. I agree. I think that this is kind of contingent on Interior Aids offering up their parking lot. And then I think they have a net gain in parking if that's available. So the hope is that the gravity of people wanting, or the draw of people wanting to sit out front with a beer and hang out overweighs the inconvenience of, parking one block over or parking in that lot across from the business.
And a lot of this would be pedestrian friendly, maybe I'm not driving there.
Yep. All right. So that's the off second. The schedule for this project is to hopefully get something permitted in May, and then start building this out in the first or second week of June and get something put in. So at a minimum in front of Gather, once I talked with Megan, we're hoping to do something in front of Fudge Pot as well. And Bethany added that outside is preferred. Yeah, I think a lot of people really like sitting outside at anecdotally in front of the tap house. So,
and that's sun coming in from the south would be nice.
Right.
These are north.
This is on the north, yeah. So it gets some afternoon west light, but the Salties one has got all day sun because there's no building across the street from it. Great. So if you guys have any follow-ups, feel free to send me a note and we can talk about it. The next item, we've just got a few minutes left here, so I'll go fast. We might extend by a few minutes if people are able, is the Polaris Site Plan B. The Polaris site here, this is kind of a rendering image of a potential future here, but the Polaris site is currently being demolished. The building's being taken down, and the mayor of the city has asked for an alternative idea for what happens to that site in the interim, 2 to 8 year span or 2 to 10 year span for what goes there. And kind of working through some ideas. This was in at a First Friday event, we had this image pulled up of Fairbanks at current, and then this alternate. I'll toggle between the two so you can see kind of a before and after. Here we go. So here's the site today with the Polaris building currently, or actually it's lost a couple floors, but the look at this whole thing is that whatever happens on the Polaris site doesn't inherently solve what's happening kind of on the riverfront, and it doesn't necessarily support that. So thinking about what kinds of things could you do, what kinds of interventions could you do that on this site that would support more activity here. And with this idea, there's a lot happening, obviously, but thinking about bracketing Golden Heart Plaza and creating more of a room-like experience. So making a legitimate, intentional connection down to the river and building a dock out or adding a boathouse, terracing down to that and creating, a destination point for take in or, put in or take out. If something develops on this lot, which I think really is a prime lot in downtown, imagine a 49th state, a destination restaurant with some market space inside, and really creating a lot of cross traffic from the hotel over to some sort of site here. And then with increased activity down here, maybe what's most appropriate for the Polaris site is some north-south like traffic space. So an outdoor pedestrian area or plaza that connects meaningfully between the 1st and 2nd Avenue corridors, and then helps, now people from the courthouse have an enjoyable walk over to the parking garage. This also anchors activity right next to the parking garage so that when people want their front row spot, luckily that is right in the parking garage. So they come out and they're right at this kind of active outdoor space and a building adjacent that supports that with ground floor retail, et cetera. So this is the Polaris site plan B idea. The purpose for bringing it up here is that there's some thought about in the interim if we do some small retail huts, kind of like what you can see in this image here. This is from Strong Towns. They took a vacant lot and lined it with retail chalets, what they're called. It's really similar to kind of the way that Pioneer Park functions. You build out these very simple structures and have very low barrier to entry. Businesses can rent there, sell their wares. You could operate a park program out of it. The folk school could teach a class out of it, all utilizing this essentially plaza space. And then thinking about developing the remaining area into green space in the interim, hopefully eventually making this site attractive enough that a developer would want to put a building on it, sort of proving out that there's some energy on that site. So this is a kind of a convoluted story, but the hope is that for Polaris Site Plan B, which we're going to share with the mayor next week, we can kind of describe this interim use of a mix of kind of small buildings, potentially ice in the winter months and warming huts, and some amount of infrastructure investment that remains once a building is eventually installed there. So anyway, lots of ideas on this. I'd love to hear any committee member thoughts or ideas about what we're thinking here in the event that a developer doesn't take over the site immediately.
It seems like a good plan for low finance,
Right.
pretty low finance, putting those little buildings together, which then you could rent out even. So yeah, it seems like a good interim use until they figure out what type of big project they want to do with that lot.
Winter market.
Great. One collaboration idea that came out of the home show was working with IABA, which is the Interior Alaska Builders Association. They just recently ran a competition with the local high schools and some local businesses to build dog houses, which then got auctioned off. So it was part of a program at a Hutch, their carpentry shop. So this is one of the things that we talked about furniture with, the high school collaboration, but also in the next 18 months, essentially doing maybe one of like a retail chalet competition where Fast Planning provides funding to build structures like this, but then invites Design Alaska and GEM company and a bunch of other groups to basically, have friendly builds where they create these kind of small structures. It's a chance for them to highlight their business and kind of brand these, but then it also puts momentum into a kind of temporary retail market at this location. So we'll be working on a brief for that, but again, it's hopefully a draw that gets people excited about the site, shows that the city is invested in improving downtown, and then makes it more appetizing for a developer to take it over eventually. Bethany added she thinks it would improve tourist experience as well as benefit those who work in town and look for things to do during lunch. So yeah, absolutely. Like it doesn't have to just be retail. There can be activities out there.
You're talking about food trucks.
Giant
Yeah.
checkers. Yeah.
Maybe even, what about something that would, instead of those buildings, it could be like a food truck park.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That's
I mean, 'cause
definitely.
everybody's, always looking for some place to go to, find something good to eat in the summertime. And I don't know if you do it year round or, but definitely during the summertime, having, 7 or 8 food trucks in there would kind of be a good draw for the downtown core area.
Yeah, I know that Corey Wilbur is doing something down at the far end of Noble Street, but that can only take a couple. He can only fit a couple trucks in there, and there's definitely a huge market for food trucks in this town. So having some places where they can easily load in, I think would be advantageous. And that's something that we talked about, kind of pardon my mess here with this sloppy drawing, but having on this lot some, activity space with games, and then a place where food trucks can readily pull in. This kind of idea that maybe there's some semi-permanent canopy that could have swings, or just provide some temporary shade, in the absence of planting trees or something there. So we're throwing a lot of things at the wall right now. We'll see what sticks in this conversation with the mayor, but low barrier to entry, low kind of economic startup cost, trying to leverage the community to build some of these, I think, is the hope. To just get people excited, and the more that participate in the construction of it, the more built-in advertising it kind of has. So this is the plan B that we're working on developing right now as part of the downtown implementation group.
More energy to Griffin Park too.
Yeah. We're a couple minutes over. Can folks hang on for another 15 minutes to just cover these last few things? Phoebe, you got to go. Okay, great. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Sean, for coming. Yeah, certainly. The last item on our agenda here is the pedestrian light covers. This is about the city of Fairbanks. They call them the lightsaber lights. You often see them looking something like this, where someone's hit them with a stick. I mean, I've never actually seen someone vandalize these, but they always seem to be broken or missing. A lot of them just don't have tops on them at all. These are along Cushman Street, and they were installed as part of the Complete Streets program. The city spends a lot of money replacing these or getting repairs made to them, and they're looking for ideas on how to protect them. Jeremiah, do you know how much these cost per light when someone pops the top off?
I'm not sure on the exact cost. I just know that it is like, okay, we need to figure something else out because the cost is it's getting way up there. I mean,
yeah,
you just stick them higher in the air, stick it to where people can't touch them, go to the ones on like Fifth that are the big candy canes or something, because it's constant replacement of those. And some of the homeless people are just like taking those plastic tubes right out of there.
Well, okay. Well, I know there's been some thought about when I communicated with Bob last, was about removing these, just taking them out and swapping them with a new fixture entirely. I saw an example that is a similar style of light, but it had kind of perforated metal around it. So it had a really limited area, and it was a lot stiffer in terms of, being able to touch that lens portion of it and knock it out of there. So a proposal that I sent to Bob was see if we can locally fabricate a sleeve that can go over the top to essentially protect that big exposed area, and then with a collar around the bottom that fixes it in place. I'm calling around to see if anybody in town has the capacity to actually weld or, laser water jet cut metal like this, or to cut a flat piece and then round it to go around the sides. So
yeah, I know. I was excited to see that idea. I mean, that's a lot cheaper than buying brand new tubes like you were showing. But I mean, because what you were saying is like, okay, so we keep the tube design and then we go with that. But then when you came up with the idea of seeing if we can't find somebody that can just fasten a sleeve to go over that. Yeah, I like that idea. And we could come up with all kinds of cool Alaska designs to go in there.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah,
So
certainly.
we're just trying to find out if that can be done at all. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? That's a great answer.
So I want to talk to Greer, Holiday Parks, and some of the other shops that work with metal to see if they can do something like this, or even Wilbur Bros, see if they can do something in sheet metal that can be attached around the top. So matching the color of this kind of brown that we've got, and coming up with a thing. So for this group, I guess I included it here in case there's other ideas. We can propose those as well, but this is the one I'm currently chasing down. For a way to salvage the fixtures in place and just protect them a bit more.
Yeah,
So-
no, that's a great idea, Corey.
I think it'd be helpful to know the exact cost for replacing one of those.
It's in the many thousands of dollars
But
Per-
what does that mean?
Is it per light?
per light. Yeah,
Zinza,
$10,000 or $2,000?
no.
Tim Zinza might actually be able to retrieve a cost. You there, Tim?
Yeah, I could probably figure it out, or we can ask Star what the latest cost is. I think they're about 8,000 to 9,000. I'm just guessing though, but I can look into it.
Yeah, can we have that number? That'd be great to know.
Well, and also how many there are on the corridor, because,
Yeah.
you know, you start like removing one, now you've got kind of, you know, anyway,
There's gotta be at least 20, right? Maybe more.
at least,
I was gonna say
Yeah.
there's at least 20.
yeah,
I mean, so 50 times, wow,
I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars probably to replace all these
versus the sleeve.
versus a sleeve or, something else.
That's a number to know.
Okay. So, Tim, I'll follow up with you and get an idea on cost and I'll let you know if I can find something, an estimate, or if someone in town can even make this thing we're talking about here.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
It's about lighting, but it's not about this. Hey, Tim or Jeremiah, do you know who handles the lighting on the Polaris sculpture in the green space?
Oh, you're talking about,
It's the city. I
And why is-
believe I believe it's the city.
Because it's not working, right?
just disconnected.
They disconnected it or took out the wiring when they did the bridge. And the contractor was supposed to come back and hook it up. That's what we've been told in other meetings.
What?
Jackson's been working on that, trying to figure out what happened. When they overhauled the bridge, they disconnected it, the power.
Took the wires and put them inside of it and the one on the other side of
The shards.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
The one, you know, those ones with the hole,
Oh,
the
the
guys
glide
climbing the
tampons?
poles. Yeah.
Well, lots of questions. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Tim, did you have something to add?
Yeah, hold on a second. I just found the last time we replaced a decorative light was in 2023. We replaced 6 of them and it was $44,000.
Was that the lens or the whole
No,
thing?
that was a complete, they don't sell them in parts anymore. So that was the whole assembly. So you're looking at 7,400 a piece. And that's 2023, which I'm sure, I don't know, with inflation or whatever, who knows what it is now. It's not, I doubt it's less, but we didn't do any last year.
It's a pretty safe bet.
bet.
I mean, you know, what are tariffs doing today?
You know, just this one bill was 2023. We can't do it every year because we're just dying. So we paid $63,000 to have outlets fixed in those streetlight and 6 streetlights. And then we paid a separate contractor to replace, I think, 6 or 7 trees between vehicles and people snapping them or whatever. So it's constant, but last year we didn't do anything on it, and it's actually pretty bad if you look at it right now. Anyways, that's the price.
Hey, Tim, somebody had a question yesterday about the tear down of Polaris. Is it going to be done by the October of this year?
My silence is the answer.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a pretty pregnant silence. It's
I mean, that's the plan.
There is
I mean,
no
that's the
answer.
plan, you know, I don't want to go on record saying it is.
Tim, I can't make eye contact with you.
all right.
And it-
Okay,
and it-
so let's wrap it up here so that we're respective of schedules. Let's go to agenda setting. Just thinking about the things to talk about at our next meeting, which is going to be July 3. I know that's right before a holiday, but that's what we've got set at current. If people have enough conflicts and people can't participate, we can move that date. but assuming that we're doing it, old business items that we want to bring forward to talk about next time. I can provide an update on our local organizations, and we'll have some specifics about what projects this group's can kind of latch onto. Yep, we'll talk about orphan lots.
You're gonna give us homework though, right?
Yep. So hopefully you guys will have done some thinking on that. The friendly parking program should be up and running. I can provide just some updates on that. Complete streets, same community grants. I mean, I'll provide an update basically on all of our old business, the things to carry forward.
Do we have anything on Airport Road? Richmond?
We can ask for an update on that.
Yeah, please.
I know that the costs escalated just astronomically on that, and the project is basically in rescoping.
Well, I would love to hear more about that.
Okay. Bethany, I see you're out on the 3rd. New business items that people want to talk about. Are there any top of mind? You can always email me after.
Well, you're saying you might get a sample of the, I don't know, the welcome sign, but
Oh.
you're talking about birds and the little insects.
Yeah.
Can that be a thing?
Yep. Could try to provide some mock-ups.
New business.
The WTF sign and the medallions. All right. Great. Anybody online? Things to add, things you'd like to talk about, projects that you think could be addressed?
With regards to the dreamscape we saw of Polaris, that boat launch. I don't know where we stand on something like that, but it would be amazing to see somebody really invest in something decent. And I don't know if that's not federal highways money, but is there a thing? I know that one exists, but it's a piece of crap and it's kind of dumb and.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk with Jackson.
Proper celebration of our river would be so nice.
Yeah. All right. Committee member comments? Anything to be said that hasn't been? All right.
Thank you
Well,
for hosting.
let's go with
Thank you all.
perfect. Can I get a move to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Move to
I'll
adjourn. Second.
Okay. Dude, Jeremiah, we got it mixed up. All right, perfect. Well, thank you, everybody, and I'll be in touch with some follow-up emails. Appreciate your time.
So.
16.